I gotta look into some past lives.
I mean, he says so.
Do you think you've had past lives?
No.
You don't think so? You think it's your first life? You think it's your only life? Is your only life? You're like, this is my only life. Who knows?
It'd be nice if there's another one, I guess. Can I come back as a house cat?
As a house cat. I'm coming back as a cow if there is a next one.
A cow? You want to be milked?
I don't care. You can eat me. Honestly, like when I drive by cows on the way here.
Yeah. That's
I do stop. I stop and talk. I'm the cow alone in a field beneath a tree. You know, like I'm just like, that's the life.
You know, right, people love to be like, look, cows.
Mm-hmm.
So you like that.
People drive by and wave at you.
Yeah.
It'll be me waving at myself. That's what it is every time I see a cow.
Oh, God. Well, I guess we want to come back as animals.
Yeah, well, I guess, what was it, Hindus believe you come back? That's the highest form is a cow?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we got a caller.
We do have a caller.
Who we got?
We got Scott. Let me bring Scott. It's been a while.
I know. Scott.
Are you with us? Oh, it looks like you're muted on your end, Scott. So unmute yourself.
I guess we want to come back as animals.
What?
Oh.
Here,
Scott. We've found another life.
We're in a portal.
As always, Scott, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, right on. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
my device just went all crazy on me here.
Well, we know how that goes.
Yeah, I want to start off first by, this is my third time calling in. The second time, I didn't say hello to Alex. So, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, we noticed. We took note. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, oh, is it this guy again? He's back?
Yeah,
the story I want to tell kind of connects to what you guys were just talking about, because there's a lot of... it ends up, I figure out, talking about past lives. So that was kind of coincidental, yeah?
Yep. I thought it was amazing when you reached out. And you reached out after I had this booked. And you had a brief summary of the story. I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
There's no coincidence.
He just knew. No, the past lives, it all connects.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Well, Scott,
it definitely does.
run away with the story. Let us know what's up.
While I was waiting for your show to start a couple hours ago, I was just watching one of the latest episodes of What Lurks Beneath on YouTube. I don't know if you know the channel, but he pretty similar stories. Usually just tells the story though.
Cool.
Occasionally he'll have a guest, but most of the time it's just a story.
Cool.
But he covered a rural Ohio story that happened in 1981, which is the year I have a memory of the first abduction experience, which turned out was the mass abduction event. And coincidentally, 1981 had one of the Ohio's highest reports of strange and unusual sightings on record in the state at the time.
Oh.
So, without further ado, it's evening, summertime, 1981, Saturday night in Akron, Ohio, and my parents are out on a date night. So my late teen sisters, she had to babysit me and my younger brother and myself. Well, she always hated it. My older brother was sleeping over at a friend's house that night, and my younger brother was an early sleeper in those days. I mean, I was 5, he was 3. So he decided to nod off on the couch after we had some excitement earlier during the low-light sunset. We had multiple low-flying, unmarked, but super loud military helicopters coming and going from the north to the south in kind of like a search pattern over the park. We lived on a hill above it, which had a super large forested area and multiple trails that led in all different communities and private sports fields. When the helicopter stopped pretty much as soon as the sun had set, I started to watch TV, and from the back of the house, my sister started screaming my name in a panic. So I went to see what was wrong, and she pointed at a white egg-shaped light in the sky out the back window. Of course, I was skeptical because she wouldn't take up any opportunity to mess with me.
Of course.
She was always trying to prank me because I'd get her in trouble with my parents, her friends, her boyfriend. I was a little pest. So I said smugly to her, "It's just a helicopter." As it kept getting closer and closer, though, when I finally realized it wasn't a prank, there was a blinding, whiter than white flashing light, and everything was blank just suddenly. Next thing I know, I'm standing in the middle of the street, in the middle of the night in front of my house. Everything was still very super bright, so it was hard to adjust my eyes at first. I started to make out shapes of people and recognize many that were my neighbors, but everyone seemed to be in a trance and in different states of dress. One of the ladies only had half of her hair rolled up. At the time, women always had hair rollers in their hair when they went to sleep. And I remember giggling in my head over that, and a voice came from the side, and it said it wasn't her fault. Stop laughing. It's like, okay. My vision came back more and more, and I noticed I was the only kid in the group, and neither my brother or sister were here. It was still very bright, and looking down, I could see we were standing in a circle of light. Looking up, I can see the night sky and almost in a transparent type of large cloud above us. On the ground, it looked like it was like being inside of a Johnny Rockets or any of those other 50s neon and bright light type of restaurants. You know, the neon, everything was super bright. It had sort of a doorway, too, where the voice came from, that I realized after the fact. Two, like, super tall, skinny, but blurry white beings were flanking the pseudo-doorway. And to the right, it looked like an electric, bright, red-based bubblegum machine from the turn of the century. It had like an ozone bubble instead of a glass dome that filled the top, and it was filled with colorful electric balls bouncing inside. They were like colored electric balls, and they would just jut out one at a time towards each adult that was around me. And once it hit their head, they just start shuffling back to their homes like zombies. After everyone went back home, I walked inside my house and laid down from exhaustion. Next morning, my mom asked my sister how everything was. I expected a meltdown, but she just said there was some helicopter excitement, just like normal otherwise. I think she may have buried her trauma because she was hysterical. Normally, she will let everybody know when she's upset. But fast forward 2 years later, when we moved to California as a family, because my dad got a job as a computer programmer, and in Ohio, it was kind of, dead-end job in California. Silicon Valley, baby. So we were driving to Ventura to visit my grandpa, and we got to the point where it was just hills, were mostly brown hills. And then eventually we got to a point where I had some green where cows were grazing at the center. And I had a memory flood back to me from that night in 1981. I was in a group with all sorts of people that I didn't know, I had never seen before, but we were all out dressed in a similar jumpsuit, wearing a backpack and sunglasses that had like heads-up display like in a sci-fi film. We were hiking in a warm, dry, brown, hilly valley. We got to our destination. It was like an oasis, like out of nowhere. All green, deep blue pool, and a large reaching waterfall it had arms that would loop around the entire valley. And behind each arm of the water from the falls were cave entrances with names written in a language I couldn't read, but I was able to recognize my name, so I figured out that it must have been other people's names. Entering the mine, or the hole of the cave, or if it was a mine, I don't know what it was, I thought I'd get wet, but the water didn't touch me. The walls inside looked moist too, but were dry to the touch because I had to touch it. Type of robot, I think. I mean, it was mechanical. Entered from a closet and said, "Welcome to your storage locker. Many things that have been important to you in all of your lifetimes are here and always will be. You cannot remove anything, but you can always add. So go live your life." I woke up from a trance in the car after that memory. It had flooded into my head, and I've had that in the back of my mind ever since.
Whoa.
So, yeah, it's crazy, man.
Whoa. So it sounds like you and Carroll have very similar experiences, just different settings.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think he actually has a lot more information. He's like more in tune. I think I'm just like getting things like from the left and the right, and I'm supposed to figure it out maybe.
Right. Yeah, you need more lives. You got to keep.
Yeah, probably.
He's got a lot of lives under his belt. That's crazy. Do you know anyone else who's had similar experiences?
No, not that type of experience. But I mean, everybody's story is like completely different, weird, but I guess they tie together.
Yeah, I mean, they have the same type of theme, that there's a collection place and a lot of other lives, right? It's like almost like the way he describes like a cubby.
Yeah.
You go back and just put your stuff here.
Yeah.
And keep coming back. That's wild.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe tailored towards the flavor of the person's personality.
Yeah. It's also how how we perceive ourselves, and when Carroll was talking earlier, and maybe this might reflect back to how you're talking about your stuff. I was thinking about people in the late 1800s were seeing UFOs, but they believed they were like balloons. But back then they only knew balloons, right? They didn't think of it. They didn't have technology in their life to think of it any other way. But now, when people who are researching this stuff now and look at pictures or descriptions from back then, they look like saucers, but they didn't have the idea of saucer in their mind. They're thinking of just like balloons, hot air balloons and stuff, and airships.
Yeah, I've seen some of the old art depictions. There was like, they look like balloons, and then there's like all these crazy lights and contraptions coming off of them because they couldn't describe anything else. It's like somebody in a basket instead of a ship.
Right, and our perception has changed now because of technology, and so we have a whole different concept. But then you can look at that into your own personal experiences with what you had, your story, and what Carroll has in his story, and how his story is all these lives, and how they shape his perception, and same for you. Did you tell?
Well, I know a guy that's pretty in tune to a lot of the past life experience and a lot of the things, but to him, most of it is all tied together to ET technology. Like, we call it pixie dust, but to them, it's just like normal everyday things.
That's interesting. When you had your...
I can have him send you a message if you want to talk to him.
I mean, yes. Of course.
He's been around forever. I actually got connected to him through Captain John Lear.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, totally send them our way. I love to hear all these stories. When you had your experience that you just talked about, either or, whether it's the one in the car or from, I think it was a year or two earlier, did you tell anybody? Like, did you think, like, I can't tell anybody, this is just insane? How long did you wait to say
as a little kid, I felt, I'm not going to tell anybody this. They're just going to say, you've watched too many cartoons, or you eat too much cereal, all the sugar or whatever.
Right.
So I've just kind of held on to it, and then, like, randomly, people that I felt comfortable with, maybe less than a handful, I've told the story to, or stories to.
Right. Yeah, it seems
because they've had stories too, and it's like, you know what, I need to share too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to hold in, like Carroll's saying, he held on to it for 30-something years, perhaps, and
didn't tell his family.
The guy I was saying I wrote the story about that we did the first Inverted World with, I don't think he told anybody until years after he was married.
Yeah.
And these are life-changing.
Years later, I'm finally telling people most of my stories.
And these are pretty life-changing experiences. I know for people who hear it, they're like, well, it could just be a dream. It could just be a weird, you had a night terror, depending on how scary it was. But it's odd. I highly recommend everyone looking up Dr. John Mack and his interviews with people who've had these types of situations, these experiences, and I don't know how to define all these things, and neither did he. Wrap your head around it if you haven't experienced it. But he went from being a skeptic.
I don't think it's for humans to be able to describe any of it, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's it. That you nailed it. It's not for us to understand. It's like how science is. Science is cool. It's interesting. Okay, but you're never going to get that answer. Yeah. That giant, capital T truth, because even science, look at it, that they change it all the time. What is science?
Well, each experience is like a piece of a puzzle that doesn't belong to any other puzzle.
Right. Yep. It's all your own experience, and how we were saying earlier, the way you perceive it. You can't fully match up everything, but they do fall in line when you start to piece these things together, like what I'm saying with Dr. John Mack. He interviewed, I think, at least 100 people, maybe more, for his book Abduction. And he's like, at a certain point, you can't not see a pattern here. He's not saying exactly, he knows what it is, but there's something for sure going on. And like we've seen with a lot of callers in the show and guests, there is clearly something happening.
Oh yeah, it just depends on the perception of anybody. I mean, I think like your guest just tonight, he was saying there's levels, and I think it just depends on which level you reach. It doesn't matter. I mean, you could be like near the highest level, you still don't know anything.
Right. Do you? I think you have children. Am I wrong?
Yes, sir.
Do you now look at them? And if they tell you something a little like wild, like one of your stories, do you find yourself being a little more open to?
Oh, I always have been. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had an experience where I watched my son get abducted while the abductors just kind of smiled at me and like playful children. So, yeah.
Wait, I don't think you told us that one before, have you?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Well, I mean, you can't. I mean, you might as well just tell us that right now. You can't not know that story.
I was sleeping in bed as normal. My son, he was not newborn, but he wasn't a year yet either. I can't remember how old he was exactly. But in our house, throughout the house, we have skylights. It's an old Eichler house, and it was built back in the 50s. So every house in that neighborhood had some sort of sloped ceiling.
Yep.
And just skylights everywhere. So one night I was laying in bed, and I could see down the hallway for where I'm at, and a light kind of appeared through the skylight, and then suddenly, just 5, 6, maybe 7 children-sized, I don't know, white people, but they were dressed kind of like the kid. I don't know if you've seen the movie Labyrinth. Her little brother, he's dressed in the striped onesie. Mm-hmm. They were dressed like that.
Oh boy! But
they didn't touch the ground when they walked, but you can see their legs moving, and they ran towards the crib, which is to the left of me on the bed from the bed, and they just started. They were running around, playing. They had like a ball they were throwing around. They kept looking at me, smiling like they're children having fun. And then suddenly one grabbed my son, and they just started dancing around with him, playing with him. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see this large, or not large, it's wide but really short, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall, kind of tattered old woman. I don't know, she's brown. Couldn't see her face. The best way I can describe it, again, if you've seen the movie Labyrinth, when they're in the junk scene, there's that woman puppet walking around. She's all brown with a giant backpack and junk all over her, and she's just walking around collecting stuff in the movie. That's kind of what that looked like without the backpack.
Okay,
and I think it was more like the parent telling the little children what they're supposed to do, stop playing around, get back to work, because they all started stop smiling. And instead of running, they just kind of walked and went back to dutifully doing their job.
Wow.
But the one that was holding my son walked up to the skylight, held it up above its head, and the light beamed down, and my son just disappeared. And he smiled at me, and he disappeared. And then the next morning, my son was back, but he was in the bed with me.
Wait, what did you do, though, in between? You just went back?
I just laid there. I couldn't move. I just watched. I was like, what the heck is going on here?
Like, you couldn't move in terms of it was a paralysis situation? Or?
I don't know if it was paralysis. It was more of confusion. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been completely confused by something and you just can't move, but it's not like you can't move because you're scared.
Right.
That's why he wants to be a cow.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah. So child disappears. You fall asleep soon after this?
Yeah, I don't know if I fell asleep. I just blacked out. It was kind of like, when in movies where they just kind of suddenly just pass out.
Right.
It kind of that.
And when the child reappears, what is that conversation? Is there a conversation?
Well, he was little, and my wife had no idea what was going on. It was just me seeing the whole thing.
What did your kids say?
My daughter was in another room sleeping because she was maybe 2 at that point, so she wouldn't have said anything. I don't think she would have noticed anything, honestly.
Right.
My son, he couldn't speak, so he didn't say anything either. I just kind of was happy that he was back, and he seemed really happy to be sitting with me.
I wonder if he experienced what you experienced.
Man, it's quite possible. I mean, I have so many gaps. I mean, like I said, when I saw the patch of green, I had the flooding memory come back. Right. Randomly, it happens to me if I just see something, just a speck of light somewhere. Something, oh, wow, I remember this now.
Right. It's like a larger, more supernatural version of putting on a CD, and a certain song brings you back to when you were 12, in a certain summer. It's like a fingerprint of memory, but obviously to a much weirder degree, because you're thinking about other places you've been transported to.
And it's also completely emotionally attached to you for some other reason, and it just continues to build.
Right, man. Well, we will have you back to talk more stories, Scott. We appreciate you calling in again.
Hey, no problem.
God bless, and don't disappear before the next. Well, maybe you should disappear before the next phone call. Have another story to tell us.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I've got a lot more.
Sweet.
Like I said, they flood back to me sometimes. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this part.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, keep in touch, man. We'll have you back.
Take care.
All right, thank you guys.
Later, man.
Sorry.
Man, they're crazy. I'm glad we had both those guys talk on one. Every time I drive home, I think I'm probably going through multiple portals.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. You don't think there's vortexes out there?
Yes.
Just waiting
maybe
to catch you? Like something like
I wish I would experience some
like
of
in
stuff,
Acme,
honestly.
like wherever the Wile E. Coyote got his stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think there's a lot of vortexes out there that I slip through. for sure.
Sometimes I think about, I mean, you have a 4-year-old, I have a 4-year-old. I'm like, and I'm hearing these guys talk about being 3 and their kids, and like, do you ever wonder like what your kid's first memory is going to be, or like, are they going to experience, like, what will they remember? What are they going to experience that's just going to hold on to their lives?
I don't know. I was thinking about my daughter had a weird thing where she was sleeping in her bed. It was nap time, and her curtains are drawn, right? And I know she was in that room, and she was not awake, not looking out the windows or anything. While that was happening, while she was sleeping, her older brother and I were outside cleaning up a dead bird that had landed in our right in our front, not the front yard, in the patio, and right out the front door actually. And so we're like shoveling it up, and he's all into it. You know, he's like, "Oh, what's this dead bird all about?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's check it out." So, you know, check out the dead bird and put it away. Come back in the house, give him lunch. His sister wakes up. First thing she says is, "Why is there a dead bird outside?"
Oh my God.
I know. We did not talk about it. Like, she knew, she did not know what we were doing. It was very weird. She has a sound machine thing going on in her room.
So was she like there?
I don't know what went on with that girl, but she keeps having these things going on.
Yeah.
Where she's kind of like tapped into weird stuff.
She tapped into things.
And that affected her in thinking of like memories that stick with you, because after a while she would see dead birds a lot. And I'm like, and then they kept winding up at our house. Yeah. And I was like, I gotta get rid of this dead bird before our daughter sees it, because it's like, I'm gonna keep traumatizing her, because she thinks, I don't know if she thinks they're connected to her or not, but she's seeing them all the time. I'm like, I gotta clean up this dead bird.
Well, I guess we'll see if that sticks with her.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll have her call in 15 years. But yeah, I don't know. I think about the memories all the time. I think about my memories. I think about memories I think are real.
Yeah. See, memories. See, I can't get past like, you know, memories versus dreams. Like,
that's why I ask everybody about how do you differentiate between them. It's not very because clear, it's hard. Though. Some people are very confident about it. I know I have memories as a child that I thought when I was a child they were real and they were happening then, and then that was a memory. But I can look back and be like, I know that was a misinterpretation of the reality. Like, I know that I didn't see a Tyrannosaurus Rex footprint, whatever it was, in the ground, because dinosaurs were never real anyway. Yeah. Ever, right? You thank you, Alex. You don't believe in dinosaurs? They're gonna be like, say it, Alex. There's no dinosaurs. Okay. But I thought I saw a dinosaur hoof print as a child. And I would tell my parents all the time. They're like, no, you didn't see that. I'm like, I think I did though. But you did. But I don't think I did because I don't believe in dinosaurs. But
just because you don't believe in them doesn't.
It could have been a dragon. Could have been a dragon.
But you believe in dragons?
Yeah, there's for sure dragons.
Okay.
For sure dragons. They got rid of dragons because they didn't want us to think how magical things were.
I believe whatever the movies tell me to believe. I'm kidding.
Hopefully you're watching the right movie. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I love thinking about that with memories, and I actually talk about memories with my kids a lot and try to make them very observant to their surroundings and to like thinking about the things. So I think that's important about, observing yourself, your perception of reality, what people are telling you, and really trying to like stay plugged in. Like, it's very important because there's so many people who don't think about anything. Yeah. Maybe they're NPCs. I don't know.
Well, some people just don't have the capacity with their mind.
Well, they never learned it. They have it. I think they.
You think everyone has it?
Unless they're an NPC, I do think you can work those muscles to be observant. Yeah. I think it's important.
Well, are we all born with souls?
I like to think so, but I think there's a lot of people here dropped here.
Dropped here.
Dropped here just to screw with me. Well, that was a fun episode.
Yeah, totally. I think everything went well.
I think, are we out there? Are we still? Did the Palladians stop this podcast?
We're in a different life right now.
Sweet. Well, do you want people to find you online or not?
Sure, you can find me. I am Alex Ayala. Good luck on X,
yeah, for now. Yeah.
And also, continue to subscribe and super chat, call in with your stories or whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, you can hit me up at Shane Cashman at scnr.com. Send me your stories. We'll have you on. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.